Hello and welcome back to Ocarina of Time. It's been a long while since I've made one of these, and that's because that school has been getting very rough over the last couple of weeks, really over the last month. I've had a really hard time. I've been discouraged lately, but I'm finally getting back to it, and I've needed to take some time off of this for a bit. So anyway, in this video I'm going to finish off the Biggoron Sword trading side quest. Now, I started the side quest technically in part 16 of this walkthrough, so refer to that for more information. So anyway, I've done a trading sequence, and now I have an item called the Poacher's Saw here. And with this, I'm going to go ahead and show to this guy. Now, whenever you first get the Poacher's Saw, it isn't immediately obvious where you're supposed to take it or what you're supposed to do with it, but this guy is a Master Craftsman, so it would be very helpful if he had one of these. So you give it back to him, and then he will eventually hand over the broken Biggoron Sword. Now, there's another thing I didn't show off in this game, and it's, well, I told you sort of about it. You can buy the Giant's Knife from Meaty Goron in Goron City whenever you become adult Link, and if you talk to him as a child, then he'll say he's working on a project that may take 5 or 6 years to complete. And well, you can buy it for 200 rupees here, but it's not worth it because it breaks after a few hits, and so I didn't bother to show that off. So here on the top of Death Mountain is Biggoron, and he's rubbing his eyes because the eruption from a couple days ago really irritated his eyes. Now, originally I thought that this happens after you beat the Fire Temple, but no, this part of the sequence doesn't happen until you trade the Poacher's Saw to the Master Craftsman guy. I don't really know his name. So you could have gotten this before doing the Fire Temple if you really wanted to, and sometimes I do that now in playthroughs. Okay, so he now gave me a prescription for eyedrops. I didn't know that healthcare was this advanced back then. Interesting. And my mission is now to take this to King Zora. Now, I know I took a bit of damage. I was trying to go more for a fast route rather than a safe route. I mean, fall damage, I think, doesn't matter how high it is. I think it'll only take a heart of damage, which is very interesting. Doesn't really make sense, I guess. I don't know why they did it. But as soon as you get a hold of this prescription for eyedrops, you want to take it all the way to Zora's domain, which is a bit of a ways away, which is why I sped up the video a lot. There's really no point in calling your horse here, because it's seriously right along the edge here, and very hard to miss. So there it is. Now, there are a couple things to do here before completing the side quest here. First of all, watch out for these Octoroks. They'll be slightly too... The thing is, now that you're an adult, you're slightly too tall to reflect with the shield. Now anyway, I came up here using the magic bean because there is something up here at night. So I played the sun song to make it nighttime. And if you didn't plant a magic bean, then you can simply just use a ladder that I will show off in a second. So here's the golden skulltula. Use your hookshot to get it to you, and there it is. So there's a ledge right here with a ladder, and this water is tall enough for you to walk in, so just do that if you didn't have the magic bean. If you don't have it planted though, I would recommend going back in time 7 years. I'd recommend going back to the Temple of Time and... oh my, what am I trying to say? And returning as a child to get it. Now up here you can kill this golden skulltula right here, but you can only collect the token if you're standing on the fence. Now, this fence is kind of short that Link might try to jump over the fence, so you want to hold forward and then backward on the analog stick while Z-targeting to properly get on it. Alright, so you remember getting into Zora's domain, you need to play Zelda's Lullaby, and then they'll let you in. And then in here you can see, yeah, it's completely frozen in here. And you may have caught a glimpse of the golden skulltula that was next to the, well, I don't want to say waterfall because it isn't. It's an ice fall, I suppose, except it's not falling. It's just sort of stationary. But you know there was a waterfall there because we've been here before. And it's snowing inside of here, apparently. This is like a cave. There's a roof in here, and apparently it can still snow. I'm from Pennsylvania, so I've seen my share of snow in life. It is pretty bad. Okay, now over on this pathway here, this is where the diving game would be, as Child Link. But here, this golden skulltula is here, but only if it's nighttime. If you enter during the day, then you'll have to play the sun's song again to make it nighttime. It's also worth noting that if you shoot the golden skulltula from the entrance and then you come up here to get the token, the skulltula will be revived and then you'll have to kill it again. I don't quite know why that happens. Maybe they use 2 separate loading zones for this area, but I never thought that much about it. Okay, out here in Zora's Fountain, you'll see Lord Jabu Jabu is gone, and there's just a bunch of ice. Yeah, a bunch of ice. Oh, what do you call them? Ice platforms. There's a proper name for them. I don't know why I can't remember them. We're in the middle of winter. I've seen enough of this snow. Even though actually where I am right now, it's pretty nice. I go to college in South Carolina, so it's pretty nice down here. Not glaciers, whatever. It doesn't matter. You wanna be careful while walking on these because of course you will slide. They are ice after all. Icebergs, that's the name. Icebergs. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. These ones here spin, and this one here will sort of teeter as you walk on each side. So do be careful. It is annoying to fall in. But anyway, in this cave here is the Ice Cavern. Now this, you'll notice as soon as you get in here, there's no mini-map because this is a mini dungeon, and that essentially means is that it is a dungeon with a map and a compass, but there is no final boss. It may seem like there is, but there isn't actually a final boss, and it's fairly short. This may take me 10 minutes to complete. It's not very long at all. But what makes it irritating is that there are these, well, those enemies I just killed, those are freezards, and they blow a very icy breath, which will freeze you and you'll take damage. And those icicles fall from the ceiling, so do be prepared to take damage in here. And there's a swinging, I don't know, spinning, looks like a propeller with icicles, with giant icicles that stick out to the side, and they are sharp. The only way to avoid them is to crouch by using your shield or by rolling. Although rolling doesn't actually work all that well, at least in the Nintendo 64 version. So I try to make sure I get this one last so that I'm not just standing out there waiting to be hit as soon as that cutscene shows. There's a golden skulltula right there on the wall, so use the hookshot to get it, and then use either the hookshot or the bow, well, to kill it first. Okay, so after that, go ahead and climb up these, and then when I come over here into this room, and again, I know there's no mini-map because, well, I didn't get it yet. One tactic I always like to use for fighting freezards is Din's Fire, because, well, ice is very much a weakness for fire. Now this room can be very difficult if you're playing on the Nintendo 64 because of these. These are ice keys, and ice keys are probably the worst enemy in this game. I had a heart attack, a near-death experience while I was recording that. I jumped in my seat. You should have seen it, really. Oh, that was amazing. I would advise sniping these, but as you can see, I don't have very many arrows left, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do that, but look at that. I did it. Do be careful here. You can use quick spins to get rid of these freezards. The one on the floor, interestingly enough, sometimes will reveal itself and then go invisible. But the ones up here don't do that. So, if it's too much of a problem, you can use Din's Fire to take them out. And speaking of fire, Navi will interrupt you here, talking about this blue fire. Now this sort of is some kind of opposite world, and what I mean by that is there's blue fire and there's red ice, and you may have seen some of it at the beginning. You saw this red crystally stuff that I didn't talk about. That's because I was waiting until I got blue fire. And the description, as you can see, well, you can't because I skip it, but it says that it's a cool flame, and it's not cool as in, you know, Oh, it's awesome. It's the newest thing. It's cool as in like temperature-wise. The flame is cool, and I can guess that that only means, or I can only guess that that means that maybe red ice is hot, which is very interesting. I don't know what gave them the idea to make complete opposites with fire and ice, but they did. Now another way you can fight freezards here is using the hookshot, but do be careful because that will pull you towards it, and it may breathe ice. See, it may breathe its icy breath at you and freeze you, so be warned for that. Don't be impatient while fighting these things, especially if you're a first-time player. So along this way here, go ahead and melt the red ice with your blue fire, and then here's the dungeon map. No compass, but it makes it a little bit easier. So as you saw from the subscreen, fairly small dungeon, not too long. This dungeon was only about maybe a third of this entire video, so not too bad. Now that's all I had to do here. I would advise restocking your supply of blue fire, because we will need it in a few more places here. And I would also advise against just avoiding the freezer. Not worth it. A waste of your time. Now there are two pathways here to melt with the blue fire. It's blocked up with red ice. Looks very pink on here. I guess some graphics were lazy on that. But in the 3DS version, the Ice Cavern looks way cooler. No pun intended. Now, I actually went to the wrong room, and I normally make this mistake. You're supposed to go to the room here to the east first, but the thing is, since there's no compass or anything, it makes it a little bit difficult. Okay, so along this wall here, do be careful. And it's also worth mentioning too that in the Nintendo 64 version, which is the one I'm playing on, sometimes blue fire cannot work right, and I think in older versions of the game it has a tendency to glitch, meaning that sometimes you'll use it and it won't melt red ice. I haven't had that happen to me very much though, just a couple of times. The first time I experienced this game was with the Wii's Virtual Console. So, well, it's a newer version of the game, so, well, new as in like, 2005 new or whatever. It's still not new. Anyway, a long history with this game. So in here, go ahead and kill the ice keys with the hookshot or the hero's bow, and then you can get the compass, which is just wonderful. And I was checking to make sure if there are any more keys because I didn't quite remember. I have a Master Quest file which mixes up the dungeons and changes the puzzles, and sometimes there are more enemies. It's interesting going back and forth, especially in the 3DS. So you can melt this red ice in here for a piece of heart. And this is the first piece of heart we've seen in a dungeon, at least I'm pretty sure, because this game does a very good job by avoiding putting pieces of heart in dungeon. As for, unlike Twilight Princess, which each dungeon contains 2 pieces of heart. But that's okay. So, go ahead and restock up on your blue fire before you leave, and then if you didn't, melt the ice over here to the west. But I already did that because I tend to do it early. And then you can cut these. Yeah, I guess my OCD really wanted to cut all of them. I don't know. Now this room can be quite a pain. I actually had to leave it the first time, but I want to show you how to properly fight these ice keys here. You'll see why ice keys are such an inconvenience and a pain, because, as you can see, I just got frozen by one, and it takes away quite a bit of health, actually. Like, was I at full health before? I wasn't paying attention, but do take them out. And you'll notice this video now is sped up because I actually made a mistake, but I couldn't cut out this footage because I collected this golden skulltula. You need to use the hookshot to get it. Now, I actually messed up with this rupee puzzle here, so you do the first one here, makes sense. But then I actually messed up the thing with this block. And this block is very interesting. You push it and then it slides until it hits something. It's like Newton's first law. An object at rest staying at rest, and then an object in motion will stay in motion unless force acts upon it. Criticize me as much as you want if I'm wrong, because I was never a scientific person growing up. I took conceptual physics in high school, not mathematical stuff. And anyway, those time blocks there can be used to access that ledge with blue fire if you need any. And over here I was trying to see if I could reset the puzzle, but this is in such a position to where you can't reset the puzzle. So I had to leave and re-enter the room. And to reset the puzzle, you just push it off the ledge and then you push it back on. And so resetting this room, unfortunately, had the ice keys come back, and I wasn't happy about that. So I didn't have my fairy bow equipped, and this ledge blocked my way. So I had to refight them. I try to use quick spins, but then sometimes my controller can, you know, not quite geek out on me. It's difficult, especially if you're playing on the Nintendo 64. Do be careful whenever using quick spins, because they can really damage Nintendo 64 controller. As I've said many times, I'm playing on an emulator, but the controller I use is a Nintendo 64 controller that just has a USB on the other end of it. So it's like I'm playing on the original console, which is what I like about it. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Go ahead, and now I'm doing this right. So go ahead and just use these blocks. And I needed to get up to this ledge because there's a silver rupee in the in this red ice here. I wasn't trying to say. Oh yeah, I don't think I mentioned silver rupee puzzles yet, but the way that they work is you need to collect them all in order to make the puzzle, you know, complete. And well, it happened in like the second room of this place, so I guess I didn't have to explain it. And if you're wondering, yes, silver rupees do have worth, but in this game it's only 5. Silver rupees only exist in this game to be for a puzzle. In later titles, such as, like, you know, Twilight Princess and I believe Wind Waker and Skyward Sword, their values can vary. In Twilight Princess, a silver rupee is 200, and in Skyward Sword, I think it's just 100. And in Wind Waker, I think it's just 100 as well. I don't quite remember. I did cover the entire game of Wind Waker on my YouTube channel, so I guess maybe you can watch those and find out. Right? Maybe I can. Okay, now do be careful with this one here, because you are very close to the ledge when you push it. And yes, that is bottomless, in case you were wondering, and that is a very bad idea for you to fall down it. Okay, so I went ahead and finally did this correctly, and I guess you can see there are little scratches in the floor. They don't really mean anything. I guess they just show that the block can be moved. Now do be careful in here. Somehow I got close enough to that freezer and he froze me, because that's just what they do. Now, if you've been following along with me exactly, you should have 3 bottles left, and I got frozen again. Can you believe it? Anyway, you should have 3 bottles left if you've been following with me. And if you don't, well, if you have at least 2, then that's okay as well. I just wanted to unfreeze another place, because in Zora's Domain the Zora shop is frozen, and even though you never need to go there, I still like to unfreeze it just so, you know, the Zora in there isn't trapped. And yes, there is still Zora in there. So anyway, in this room there is a white wolfos, and although he's not a boss, he's a common enemy, but still seems like a boss. Very easy fight. You fight them exactly like a regular wolfos, like I did in the Forest Temple. Except, well, they're white, which just means, I don't know, they're more snow-themed. But you can just destroy them with a single jump attack. Okay, in this chest are the iron boots, and they are so heavy you can't run or float with them on. So with these now, you will soon experience the worst part about playing the Nintendo 64 version of the game, and that is why all you 3DS players will have it lucky. And the reason why is because you have to go into your equipment subscreen. It's not an item like in the games that came after this, such as Wind Waker and Twilight Princess and such. Anyway, you have to take them off from the menu subscreen, which makes it very irritating, but thankfully they saw this as a problem in the 3DS version. Okay, so if you follow along with me, you should have 2 more blue fires. If you don't, you just need to have at least 1 in order to progress in the game. So if you have just 1, that's fine. If you don't, well, then you should go back and get 1. Now back out here in Zora's Fountain, there is another piece of heart to get. And if you didn't get that other piece of heart, then refer to like 20 minutes ago or something, whenever I collected it. And as soon as you put these back on, it didn't show up in there, but it didn't here because, well, I took them off faster. Now you can't breathe underwater, and thankfully we have quite a lengthy timer so that it'll tell you as soon as you drown. You don't just start taking damage from it, you will just instantly drown and then you'll die. It's very different, and the timer will vary depending on how many heart containers you have. In some other games like Twilight Princess, you'll have like a oxygen gauge, which just shows as a blue bar, and as soon as that gauge depletes, you die. It doesn't matter if you're at a quarter heart or if you're at full health. You will just instantly drown. But in this game, yeah, you will instantly drown as soon as the timer goes out. So anyway, with that information, now let's go ahead and take this blue fire over to King Zora, and then use it to, I don't know, thaw him, but like, the thing is, red ice is hot and blue fire is cold. I guess maybe cool him down. But then again, the state of this place would do that automatically. Now I'm going down these stairs because the Zora's shop is also frozen with red ice. It's really weird to say that, but here it is. And now this isn't required. This isn't even required for 100%. I just always do it just because it makes me feel better to know that I'm helping the Zora people who've all frozen to death, but still want to help out in any way I can here. So now I've equipped the perscription to a C button, and now just go ahead and show it to King Zora. But first, just speak to him with A, and then he will thank you for what you've done, and then eventually he'll give you a Zora Tunic, which, as the name suggests, allows you to, well, apparently house the abilities of the Zora, except it just gives you a blue tunic, and it allows you to breathe underwater. It's not like the Zora armor in Twilight Princess or in Breath of the Wild, which gives you unique swimming abilities. You still swim normally, the only difference is that you won't drown underwater. So you wear the iron boots and then you can stay underwater with it pretty much forever. Now, I have a blue shirt on right now, and I certainly can't breathe underwater, so I'm not quite sure how scientific that is. Okay, with that aside, go ahead and show him the prescription, and then he'll tell you, I'm sorry, we don't have exactly what you're looking for, but we have the ingredients. The thing is, though, I bought them 2 months ago, and the expiration date is in 3 minutes, so can you make it there? So I did. Also, I discovered something new while recording. If you fall down but land on the little slope to the bottom of the ice, you won't actually take damage, and even though he was screaming, it needs to be a completely flat surface in order for you to actually take damage, so that was very interesting. That kind of happened accidentally, but I'm really glad that it did happen because I didn't want to have to look for a heart. And now this is sped up too, just because, well, I mean, it took 2 minutes to get there. Now, if those of you who are prone to anxiety, I'm very sorry, but there is another timed part here as well. And if, in case you are wondering, wait a minute, I just got the song to warp to Lake Hylia, what if I just use that? Don't, because it will automatically set the timer to 0, which is very unfortunate, and I had to learn that the hard way. So, you cannot beat the system if you warp. They thought of that, and I'm really glad that they did think of that, because that would make this whole side quest here just a breeze. You could probably go fishing in between it. It wouldn't be all that long. Now, I got pretty close to running out of time here, and that's just because the way that this guy's AI works here in the Nintendo 64 version is very weird. You have to sort of talk to him first, or wait a couple of seconds before you can actually pull it out and show it to him. I don't quite remember in the 3DS version. It's been a while since I've played the 3DS version, even though I have it right there on my shelf. But this is the Nintendo 64 version. So you show it to him, and then he's going to be excited because he apparently loves to eat fried eyeballs from an eyeball frog. Not exactly maybe the... it's not exactly on my top 10 favorite dishes, frog eyes. I don't think I've actually ever eaten frog to begin with, but, well, this guy's a mad scientist. I guess they eat all kinds of weird things. So he eventually becomes disappointed because it's for eyedrops. And he's like, well, I guess that's more important than a delicious meal. So you give him the eyeball frog, and then he makes this world's finest eyedrops that only lasts for 4 minutes. Incredible. This guy also, I guess, has been leaving his stuff in the fridge for too long. It's going to expire. That's why you put stuff in the freezer. It won't expire if it's frozen. That's why they used to freeze meat back then. Okay, with that in hand, make sure you leave Lake Hylia kind of at an angle because Epona will be weird with AI. And also, I think something was going on with the sky here in Hyrule Field because it's not supposed to be this cloudy. I think I didn't quite wait for it to load clearly in Lake Hylia, so that's why it's like this. So I can barely see where I'm going. I have to use the mini-map on the corner to figure that out. I have no idea why the sky was looking like that. But then again, it's probably not. I waited. Maybe it probably wasn't because I didn't wait for the sky to clear up because I'm in a whole different loading zone. And then look here, it's still, like, cloudy. I don't know why it was like that. I don't remember if this happened in the actual game because I very much noticed it here. But then again, Kakariko Village is kind of cloudy because they're dealing with their own issues right now. I believe it cleared up here as soon as I got here, though. Watch out for the boulders here. And, of course, if you planted a magic bean, this will make it tremendously easier. If you didn't plant a magic bean, you might not have been able to make it on time, though. So if you didn't plant a magic bean, then you're going to want to return back as a child and do that. I mean, if you have enough rupees like I do, then you should be able to buy magic beans without a problem. Now, I advise that you kill these skulltulas, even though they can really steal some seconds away because it's difficult to aim on the Nintendo 64 version. But thankfully, I still had some time left, so I was able to do this. I remember one time I had 3 seconds left, and when I was down to the last second, I finally was able to give them to him. It didn't work the first time. Like, I showed it to him and it said, you can't use this item here or something. So I had to Z-target him and then it worked. So there you go. He's used the eyedrops, and they're so loud you can hear them from the mountain foot. So he'll be excited and say that he can finally get back into his work of forging blades. So he'll say, return after a few days, and I will give you a secret. You don't actually have to wait a few days. What you have to do is just play the Sun Song a whole bunch. Now, you want to play the Sun Song 6 times, which will make 3 in-game days go by. So you play the Sun Song 6 times, but you have to wait until the wolf howls and the rooster crows each time, or else you're just playing it as a waste. So make sure you do that. So go ahead and play Sun Song. I believe this is the 2nd day. It's like Majora's Mask here. There are more 3-day stuff in the Zelda series than I realized. Alright, but this should be the last time here. So after this, all you have to do, as soon as the rooster crows, go ahead and show him the claim check, and he'll say that sword is his finest work. And indeed it is. Here is the Biggoron Sword. Now, if you've bought the Giant's Knife, and you've realized that it breaks after a few hits, which I didn't show off in this walkthrough, by the way, just because it's not really necessary. So this is a Master This, not the Master Sword. The sword was crafted by a Master, you know, Craftsman, and it will not break. This isn't like Breath of the Wild where everything breaks. Even the Master Sword runs out of energy. I still can't get over that one. It's ridiculous. It has no problem in any other game, but comes with that game. Oh, it needs to recharge, install updates. Okay, with all that, go ahead and warp to Lake Hylia by playing the Serenade of Water. That's probably my favorite Ocarina song in this game. And then once you're done with that, go ahead and jump into the water below, and go ahead and equip the iron boots from the from the equipment subscreen if you're playing the Nintendo 64 version, or from the items if you're playing the 3DS version. And then you want to sink down to here, oh so slowly, and then use the hookshot to hit this crystal switch right here on the top of this grate here. And that is it for now. Join me in the next video where I will take on the next dungeon of the game.